I think we have extraordinarily powerful evidence that violence towards children causes all of the negative things that we've articulated in our research and publications. There are always going to be naysayers who are going to usually drag up the fallacy of the perfect association. They're only going to be satisfied if every child who ever got hit turns into a mass murderer. Well, everyone who smokes 2 packs of cigarettes a day doesn't die of lung cancer. Only 1/3 of the people who smoke 2 packs a day die of lung cancer. That's an incredibly high rate compared to people who don't smoke. And what we're talking about here is comparative rates. And you know, it's not a one-to-one relationship, but I'd have to say that in 1998, we have pretty much definitive evidence from cross-sectional and longitudinal research, from small samples, large samples, that these negative outcomes are probabilistically associated with violence towards kids. Social scientists, we're not physical scientists, and we don't have the luxury of dealing with vacuums and pure chemicals, but we understand what the rules of evidence are, and we're taught to follow the rules of evidence and to be consistent in publishing things that meet the normal rules of evidence in the social sciences. And Murray Strauss and I and Irvin Hyman and many people in this field are very respectful of those rules of evidence. But there comes a moment in a career, sometimes it comes early, sometimes it comes late, where you look around a world and you see abused children and you see unhappy people and you see people committing suicide and people depressed and people woefully unable to come close to their developmental potentials. And you say, I wonder if maybe the research I'm doing could have an effect in helping people, improving people's lives. Some people choose at that point to say, well, that's not my job. My job is to do the research. It's somebody else's job to apply it. And they go off and they stay in their labs and they do very good work and very good publications, but they allow the advocacy groups to then take the work and twist it into their own shape. But Murray Strauss and Irwin Hyman, and I suppose myself, took a different path, and we said, well, I don't want somebody else to shape my work. I think I have a pretty good idea of what my work means and what its implications are for social policy, and I will not conclude my articles anymore by saying, and this means that we need to do more research. I'm going to conclude my articles by saying, and this research means that this is what we ought to do specifically. The moment you start doing that, people put you under a much finer scrutiny. The peer reviewers, the grant reviewers, the university administration now sees that you're wearing 2 hats. And they are worried, and rightfully so, that the advocacy hat might get mixed up with the research hat. And so we are subjected to more scrutiny. And we're subjected to more scrutiny because we're dealing with social stuff. It's not pure, but you know, in many ways, a lot of natural scientists have the same problem because the real-world applications to a lot of things can have detrimental consequences. I know there's been a tremendous controversy over the effects of smoking, and some researchers have taken advocacy positions which others view as tainting their research. My ultimate position now is follow the rules of evidence, but try to make the world a better place for children. And trying to make the world a better place for children really is a higher priority for me now. And I think for Murray, and I think for Irwin, and if we pay a price for that in terms of it's more difficult to publish, we're put under more scrutiny, there's more nitpicking with our articles, okay, so be it. I think we have to take a long view of this issue, and I'll tell you my favorite story in the short version. There's only been one disease ever cured in the world, and that's smallpox. I don't know of any other disease that's been cured such that you just don't get it anymore. And smallpox was cured, according to the World Health Organization, in 1980. And just this week, there have been calls for the final destruction of the last remaining live viruses that are securely stored in Moscow and in the Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta. 1980, it was cured. The cure for this disease, which really only had one cause and therefore only one cure, was discovered in the late 1700s. So it took 200 years to cure something that had one cause and one solution. If I had the cure for child maltreatment today, even for this multiple cause phenomenon, if somehow magically I came up with the cure today, the implementation of that cure would go well beyond my lifespan, my children's lifespan, my great-grandchildren's lifespan. More than 200 years it would likely take. So I think you have to look at the problem in bite-size pieces. I take a tremendous satisfaction in knowing that the law that dealt with how child welfare agencies intervene on behalf of abused children, which said family reunification was the #1 priority for 20 years, was just changed in November of 1997, such that the best interest of the child and the child's safety is the #1 priority. Now, it took a good amount of effort to change that, and changing the law doesn't necessarily mean that it's being implemented properly, but it does mean that with a pointed effort and the right amount of work and good science behind you, you can make a fundamental change. So I'm optimistic that we can bite this problem off a little piece at a time, and not frustrated that I won't see the end of it. Because the person who invented the smallpox vaccine, who discovered it in cowpox, certainly didn't live anywhere close to seeing the disease eradicated. But they got the satisfaction of knowing now we have the ability to do something to keep people from having this deadly disease afflict them. I think in the child maltreatment field, we need to keep accumulating evidence and knowledge such that we can make the world a better place for more kids and more kids and more kids, even if we have to do it 10,000 at a time instead of 60 million all at once.
You know, in the kind of work I've done, I've been a researcher, I do scholarship, I train students to be psychologists, and I work every week with some kids who are many teachers' worst nightmares or many parents' worst nightmares. I work with kids with conduct problems, with drug problems, with discipline problems, who get in trouble with the law, and I usually see them in groups or in families or groups of families. And so what I'm saying here really is related to over 30 years of work as a researcher and practitioner. It's not just Ivy Tower, you know, intellectual, liberal mush. It's the real. I deal with the real kids out there every week, even though I'm writing about them and doing research and supervising dissertations and research about the whole area. Well, this started us thinking about the whole ecology, the systems approach to understanding what's going on here. Well, I won't bore you with all the research we did, but basically what we found was that we are the most, on all measures of solving of social problems, solving the problems of youth and society, we are the most punitive country of all the Western democracies. There's a very heavy finding. So we have this culture of violence, and it fits all together. And that's the kinds of things that I found in my work, both my research. I could give you lots of other facts about it, but that's basically the picture that we have.